for folks that I haven't met personally, I work with Jairus and Sarah at the University of Kentucky, providing a lot of support for the UK CSA program. And we've been working with this program since its inception, since around 2015, when Jairus and I did a pilot program here at UK, and getting some USDA grant funding to do that pilot proof of concept, and then getting that program put in place, where after getting even just some initial preliminary data, very encouraging results. And so had some great support partners from the University of Kentucky that were really encouraged by the data, some of the impact things that we saw, and our folks from our UK Health and Wellness, who will be part of a future coffee chat program. We're great partners, but another person who was also a really important partner for us was Richard Amos, who's the benefits director here at the University of Kentucky. And hopefully we get Richard on here in just a minute. So we're just be patient with us here as a minute. Sarah's pinging him, making sure he's got the right links and everything to join us here. But I know he's going to be a great resource for us. All right, so he's on now. That's good to know. Sarah, anything we need to square out here on the front end?
No, we're ready to get started. I wanted to tell folks that we are recording this conversation, so it'll be made available to you after words, and feel free to share it with others that might be interested. I also have a really brief 3-question survey at the end when we log off, so please help us make these conversations better by responding to those 3 questions. And if you need any help workshopping the kind of programming that you want to get started, please don't hesitate to talk to us. And then lastly, we have a part 2 of this conversation with Vanessa Oliver, who's on this call, and Jody Ensman, who are at UK Wellness, who do all of the programming around it. And we'll talk a little bit about the partnership with Kentucky Farm Share Coalition and how it works here at UK.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. I've dropped my email in the chat there too. And so even if you have questions that maybe you're not as comfortable with it being recorded, but you still want to follow up on that, you can reach out to me kind of offline here, and we can connect you with Richard or try to follow up with questions that you might have. But appreciate everybody being on today. And Richard here, especially, we're extremely happy to have you on board. So welcome to our coffee chat here today.
There, I'm sorry. I've had trouble today with Zoom and Teams. So anyway, thank you, Tim. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Sarah, for all your help getting ready. I've already had my coffee. I'm ready to go. So I enjoy being here, and I'm glad to visit with y'all.
Well, super. Yeah, hopefully we have the technical gremlins out of the way, and we can move on forward. So yeah, Richard, we really appreciate you being on with us today. What we've got here is really a group from different organizations that themselves are kind of looking at potentially adapting a program, kind of like what we've had at UK with our voucher program for the CSA space. You were one of the first people that we talked with way back early on as we were exploring this, and having support from the university, and especially from the benefits program, and somebody that we could talk through a hugely important part. And I think part of what we're hoping folks are going to be able to take away from today is how do they talk with their corresponding benefits folks in their own organizations about a program like this. And I guess maybe to sort of warm us up to it a little bit, I know you had a chance to be part of a CSA yourself, weren't you? Down in Texas before you had a chance to come up here. That sort of warmed you up a little bit to the idea right out of the gate.
Well, I've been warmed up to the idea since the probably 80s. I'm dating myself here. My first HR job was at a hospital, and I worked with a dietitian, and we came up with a Harvest Your Health program in the fall. So it's just kind of part of my second nature to be wellness or well-being oriented. And we've been involved. We've been farmers market junkies for a number of years. So I think all that has served me up to make CSA a natural fit.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll come back and talk about some of the nuts and bolts of the CSA and voucher program specifically, but I think something that would be a good starting point as our other folks are thinking about benefits in other organizations. What does a benefits coordinator look for generally in an employee benefit?
Well, our CFOs are looking for give me the best deal and the best value.
Yeah.
And that's the CFO's perspective. The HR perspective is, we do want to address the needs of the day and the future. And we're all aware of a lot of needs right now. So I won't enumerate those right now, but I think we're all aware there are a lot of needs that our employees have. And so what can we do to help them is our role.
Right. You and I've talked about this value idea, and maybe you could unpack that for us just a little bit, and especially from the point of view of HR benefits program. What does value look like?
Well, it's an expanded view. Of course, the CFOs are always looking for an ROI, right? The financial return on investment, and that's important. But value of investment is about quality of life and culture, contributing to the quality of life and culture. And so I think we need to watch for opportunities to, look at all perspectives, value of life, return on investment, engagement, all those things are important.
Yeah. So how have you seen the CSA and voucher program kind of fitting into that objective space, delivering that kind of value? What are some ways in which a CSA voucher program helps deliver that?
Well, health improvement is in a lot of ways lifestyle choices, and maybe at least 50% or 60% or more of what we do affects our health. It's not just genetics. So if there is something we can do to help people with their lifestyle choices by making it easy, and that's what the CSA program does, is it makes something easy that maybe it's not part of a person's current lifestyle. And so when one joins the CSA, all of a sudden they have all these vegetables to eat. And when you get people to try new things and modify some of their behaviors and facilitate that in a lot of ways, there's a lot of ways that we do that. We supply cooking classes, and our dietitian, Vanessa Oliver's, supported this program significantly. And so by making it easy with a voucher, something that it might be more affordable, and then it's delivered at a certain place. And so you've got to pick them up. Once you get in the program, you feel, I need to get this. I paid for this, right? Even though you were assisted financially to do so.
Yeah.
It just brings about some positive changes.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And, we continue to try to look for ways to make the CSA program easier, more accessible. It can be a little bit intimidating for new employees that this is kind of a new concept to them. And it might even be they don't know quite what they're signing up for, even on the front end. It's a few weeks into it that box of vegetables keeps on coming.
Yeah, and there's things that you don't recognize or you've
Right.
never tried before. And
Yeah.
we've always eaten a lot of vegetables, but we felt ourselves challenged even just with, okay, what are we going to do with this? And
Right.
but it doesn't take too much effort to figure that out or find out ways to utilize vegetables, and the farmers are good at giving you ideas as well. But Vanessa can help our employees with things like that, and you can of course just get creative and Google things.
Right. Yeah. Just back into the kind of benefits and HR kind of language again, that I think a lot of us is kind of a new space for many of our folks looking at these programs. I think a lot of our folks joining here today are more from the kind of farming programs support space. But how do you think about, in terms of a benefit, some of these metrics, like things like retention, or I love my workplace and so I want to keep, or I really feel like my employer is really a strong advocate for my health and my family's health. We feel like the CSA program can communicate that, but do you have some ideas of how we do that? How could we do that better?
Well, when we communicate our benefits, we try to cover everything, and there's a lot of things to cover, right? So it's hard to just put one thing over the other. From just a basic needs perspective, people are looking for health plans and retirement plans.
Right.
And then from there, that's where we get into this value add idea, I believe. I don't know if we're going to get people to come work for us just because we have a CSA program.
Right.
But I think it will help retain people because once an employee is here and they see that we're really interested in their well-being and we're making this available to them at a good cost, high quality vegetables, I think that's the way it can contribute to retention, and we've helped people get healthy or more healthy or healthier. I think there's a sense of loyalty that can be developed from that.
Yeah. We've shared this with some folks at some level, but maybe we could get a little bit into some of the nuts and bolts about how you view costs for a program like this. And we've had all kinds of discussions about, we do a $200 voucher for a full share, $100 voucher, I think, is it for a part share? And we continue to sort of turn the dials there a little bit, but I know we've also felt like it's important for the employee to pay something, to feel like they've got some kind of investment into the program. It keeps them coming back and picking up. I've paid for a big chunk of this.
No, I agree. Having some skin in the game is important. Having a College of Agriculture with a Dr. Tim Woods and a Jairus Rossi are really helpful because that helped y'all's research provided the return on investment basis for this. And so your research revealed that, I go back to watching the movie Disney classic Bambi. Thumper said, eat your greens, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's intuitive and common sense. It's just a matter of lifestyle habits. But your all's research proved that people are healthier when they consume more vegetables.
Yeah.
And so it's intuitive and common sense, but making it happen is the other issue, and that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to facilitate, healthier lifestyle, health improvement, and for everyone to consider, their journey to try to improve their health, whatever their situation is. What can I do to improve it?
Yeah. Well, that's trying to come up with that sort of body of evidence of the impact of the program is more wide reaching than you might think. I mean, we've tried to take it from the point of view of impact on insurance claims, which is obviously a really important measure. Impact on people's food and diet lifestyle before and after, which can cover a lot of different types of choices and behaviors. And that was something we've tried to do. More recently, we've been working with folks in our College of Nursing and other folks in our medical spaces that even look at the biometric kinds of measures. I feel like we're continuing to try to build this body of evidence of impact of a program like this.
Yeah, well, not all of our listeners may not have the privilege of partnering with their College of Agriculture. So if there's a way to partner with the College of Agriculture in your state, I think that would be something to pursue. It was easy for us, and our health and wellness manager, Jody Insman, along with Vanessa, have done a great job partnering with you all, and it's just been a great relationship.
Yeah. This is we've kind of talked on this just a little bit, but I remember you actually raised this idea to me here once upon a time, where we were talking about the value on investment in contrast to the more financial return on investment. Which, I'm an economist. I understand what the return on investment kinds of measures look like. People are thinking about, we're going to look at this from a cost benefit point of view. How much dollars are we putting in? How much are we returning back? But what do some of those other kinds of values potentially look like in your mind, in terms of the kinds of returns that a program like this brings?
Well, I get back to the quality of life, helping people form new habits, trying something new that might be challenging and maybe kind of fun at the same time for the whole family. It's not just the employee, but when you do this, you're actually affecting a family.
Right.
And so you're really trying to change and develop culture, I think, in some ways. Some of our states aren't the healthiest states statistically, right?
Right.
So we're in a state that doesn't have great, statistical outcomes currently. So in a way, this is a way we can impact our state. And spread, try to spread the word, try to encourage other employers to do the same. And I think more employers are adapting the CSA concept in whatever way they can.
Yeah. No, I know Jody and Vanessa and some of the other folks with the Kentucky Farm Share Coalition have done a lot to try to build bridges between our experience at UK and some of our other employers around the central Kentucky area, for example. And it seems like you have an opportunity in a university setting, especially, to be a champion in wellness with some kind of innovations like this, that sort of provides a proof of concept that other people can look to, and maybe hopefully have some opportunities to share those partnerships and experiences with other employers, working with some of the same farmer groups, sharing some of the same kind of data and information. I know Jody and Vanessa have had those conversations, but do you have opportunities yourself to talk with folks in other organizations about programs like this?
Well, I have opportunities to talk with peers and just people in the local area. And I think you're kind of touching on this, but supporting our local economy by supporting
Right.
our local farmers
Right.
is as farming is a hard work, hard job, and they're dependent on nature to some degree. And so if we can support sustainable farming, that's good for everyone. It's good for the environment.
Yeah.
It's good for everyone. And so that partnership, I think there's another aspect of the value of investment is you're not only helping and trying to help people develop healthier habits, but you're supporting a local economy and local farmers. When my wife and I travel, we always try to find the farm to table restaurant wherever we go, because
Sure.
that's and I'm starting to see more restaurants do that. So I think again, it's kind of all part of the culture development.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got one other question I want to sort of tease in here, and then we've got some questions that are percolating up in our chat and from some of our other folks, which is what I really hope to hear, and getting people to kind of chat in, ask some questions of you themselves. We've had a few people that have reminded us that some of the universities that they work with have unions involved, or are just organized differently and have different kinds of processes or entities that they have to get buy-in, or have to advocate for that program internally somewhat differently than we do at UK.
Mhm.
Any advice for how to tackle anything like that? I don't know if you've ever had any experience working around the union spaces, or
I have not had union experience, and I'm actually not disappointed or sad that I haven't. That's not to say that they can't
yeah,
accomplish or help or do something good,
yeah,
but it's always been my premise is you have a union because you haven't taken care of your employees.
mm,
And so I think that's not always true, but that's been my personal premise. So if we're taking care of our employees, then there's really, in essence, not a need for a union. But I think to answer your question, you've got to align it with the mission and the strategy of the institution. I think that's something everyone can find a commonality, common goal in. So finding what's common, and in our case, we actually have some verbiage at the UK that says, part of our mission is to take care of our employees. That's the
right,
verbatim. So that's very broad speaking, right? Mental health is, on everyone's mind. Now we're being bombarded with, the question about the weight loss meds. And so we've come out of this pandemic and realized that mental health is an issue. Probably was before the pandemic, but now it brought it to light. And we're trying to help people form new habits, whether it's moving more or eating better or addressing their needs with services that we make available to them. We can't force people to do anything, but we can make it easy and make it accessible and offer it to them. And hopefully we can incent them too in some ways. And that's what the voucher does. It's an incentive in a sense.
right.
But yeah, breaking through all of those. I haven't been part of any higher education that doesn't have a lot of steps and processes.
Yeah,
Nothing moves fast in higher ed.
right, right.
So I would just say perseverance.
Yeah. Well, it's very much related to that. Fully agree, and how important that is. And we experienced that ourselves. It's taken us a while to get to this point here to develop the program we have at UK. But maybe just in terms of the planning that you guys have to do at your own office, budget wise, thinking about a new idea, what's the kind of decision timing framing that you guys sort of work through as you're kind of thinking about your own budget allocation?
Mhm. Sure.
Does a pilot program make sense like what we did, do you think? Talk to us about
Yes.
that maybe a little bit.
Yeah, as far as our process goes, our plan year or fiscal year is July 1. And so we start gathering, we gather ideas throughout the year, but those ideas need to start coming into fruition in the fall. And then we make our final recommendations usually in February. And that way we can be ready for open enrollment, which starts in May, the end of April and the beginning of May for the July 1 fiscal year. So I would encourage, allow ideas to come in. We have a process. We have an advisory committee called the Employee Benefit Committee. And on that committee, we have staff senators. And the committee is enterprise-wide, and it's kind of the top advisory committee. We have the staff senate, we have the faculty senate, we have other employee groups, but the funnel is kind of through the EBC, Employee Benefit Committee. They can take information that we provide, or they can bring information to us, and they can ask us to consider doing something. And so when there's a new idea, we'll present it to the EBC, or they'll present it to us. We'll do the research. We'll come back. We'll see if they're still interested. Or we may come to them and say, here's something we're thinking about. What do you think? So we get their input. We consider their input, and it's intended to represent the enterprise. And then we'll develop the program and recommend it up to our leaders and seek approval.
Yeah. 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 And it feels like that pilot concept was helpful, where we were able to get on a smaller scale a proof of concept without a crazy huge ask in the budget, to get different partners on board, and that seemed to be a really important success factor for us early on, it seems.
Yeah, no, the use of the word pilot indicates this is not forever. We're just going to give it a try, and that there's a higher level of acceptability on that. Now, you do have to, at the end of the pilot, when there's an opportunity to measure what did it accomplish what you said it was going to do, then that's the value of the pilot. But it does seem to be like it gets you in the front door a little easier.
Yeah.
And so in our case, we could tell it was working, and it was either before or right before the 2018 year or the 2019 year, we realized it was working, and we doubled our funding of the program. Now, the funding does come from our health plan, because we view this as part of health, overall health. And so if people are wondering, how do you pay for this? Our philosophy was it's part of our health program. And did everyone in the medical plan benefit from this? No, but everyone in the medical plan doesn't benefit from everything we offer, but we make it available to them. And we believed strongly enough in this, and not only the value of investment, but the return on investment, that it's a good investment. And so our membership increased, and we're knocking on around 1,000, up close to 1,000, anywhere from 700 to 1,000. We're making over 1,000 vouchers available, and 700 to 800 or so are getting redeemed. And so, that's what, maybe a single-digit percentage of our total population, but that single-digit percentage of families and dependents can make a huge difference in our health claims. And if we're adding value. Collectively, we do all kinds of things to try to add value, and this is one of the pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got a whole battery of questions that are popping up here. I want to give our folks here a chance to weigh in here with some of their things. Emma, are you on here with us?
Yes, I am.
You want to go ahead and try to ask Richard your question directly, or we can try to weigh in as
Sure.
well?
Yeah. Hi, Richard. So I have been trying to take what you all have modeled and run with it in my region, especially because I've had demand from different large corporations near us, like Freddie Mac, is trying to get us on board. And there several companies are really interested in offering this and want to work with us, especially because we offer a year-round multi-farm CSA that has a lot of different options, different size shares, different weekly schedules, different add-ons that we've found to be a key for customer retention and true long-term lifestyle change for our members. So, our average share cost is much higher than the numbers that like $100 or $200 shares. Our average CSA member spends over $2,000 in a year because we simply feed them every week, and not, less than half of the weeks available in the year. So we've been trying to figure out how to incorporate this flexibility into an otherwise inflexible benefits package. It's a benefits package that seems really fair for everyone, like offering the same number of dollars or voucher units. But, as my experience as a vegetable farmer, people eat different quantities and eat different things. So, we're trying to negotiate that. Wondering your thoughts.
Wow, I mean, you got a lot going on already, and $2,000 average cost is amazing. What is your percentage of takers, or what is the way to quantify how that's working? And are you asking how to make it more affordable, in essence?
No, sorry, not at all. Right now, pretty much 100% of my CSA shares are direct to individual, but I have about 5 or 6 companies that are trying to figure out how to add our CSA program into their benefits package. And we really haven't been able to land any of them because it's so complicated. Some organizations are arguably very large, like Freddie Mac, and so it might be much harder to get something through, but we're also in conversation with some smaller organizations as well. So I'm just trying to figure out what they can take from your pilot program that's sort of applicable to a year-round multi-farm super flexible CSA program.
Mm-hmm. Well, you might be able to ask them to start small with just a much smaller program, just to kind of like an intro. And the other thought that comes to mind is, and maybe you already have this, I didn't understand it, but maybe you can form like a coalition. And this coalition, maybe there can be some lower cost developed by having a coalition, if the coalition can guarantee a certain volume. And so maybe you can then offer the benefit of a coalition to some of these employers that maybe are not taking hold of or are wanting to do something but don't quite know how to get into it. So what comes to my mind is the idea of a coalition and a smaller pilot program to get people started. I don't know if that
Thank
helps.
you. Yeah, I did create a pitch deck for them after I was sort of onslaught. And so we did come up with corporate pricing tiers for a number of boxes purchased and tried to kind of simplify it. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have any silver bullets for you.
Yeah, I think I would add, Emma, I think something that we have found with our program is it's just constantly trying to measure impacts and present that kind of value from a number of different angles to the entity that would be make a case for the support. And with the audience that you're trying to connect to there. And every employer we see is different. You have a university setting. Some of them are more sort of connected in with the medical space. Some might be more industrial. We have an airport company that's part of has taken this on. So every group has a different employee base that has different values and different ways that they think about and their comfort level in working with CSA. I mean, I could imagine setting up a year-round CSA, both for the as an employee new to it, thinking that I would have to do a year-long commitment to a program like that's a big lift, a big commitment. If I'm just doing a 22-week commitment, I can get to the end of it and then see how did it work. But I think in terms of being able to make the case to the Freddie Mac folks or the other big employer organizations there, just being able to show, certainly what we've tried to do is show change in diet related food lifestyle behaviors through lots and lots of things. We've got mountains of good information on our Kentucky Farm Share Coalition site. Jairus and I have worked with these guys to look at impact on health claims, as we've talked about. More and more really interesting and exciting data is coming up around biometric information for folks that are at risk for certain kinds of health issues. So yeah, I think finding that cohort of employees, finding that that kind of evidence that you want to share is going to be an important thing to get your foot in the door. Katie, you've got a question, comment here for Richard?
I was just going to follow up with Emma and just maybe ping Richard for his thoughts.
Perfect.
A lot of times I work with the Kentucky Farm Share Coalition, and Emma just wanted to say we do offer like a wide variety of vouchers across like employers, and we often will advocate for like covering at least 25 to 50% of the share cost, just because it's like a more meaningful value. And so maybe you could land on a dollar amount that they could offer within a 12-month period, and then it could just be like rolling potentially, where like people could jump in whenever they start, and then you just have reporting periods just to kind of capture those and invoice the employer for them. But that might be where I would start, is just like kind of like what is a meaningful amount, and maybe encouraging them to participate. We do put some requirements for the farms that offer flexible CSAs. We put some requirements on it, so they have to participate for at least 20 weeks. And that goes back to Richard's point of like cultivating that like healthy lifestyle. We feel like the real benefit is that like it's a habit forming program, and that you can build that over time. And so advocating for maybe putting a few like little tweaks or requirements, and we do that with the farms that offer the flexible CSAs, since UK does have 11 farms. All of the farms offer pretty wide range, but we just have kind of some minimums in place to help meet that. So I don't know, Richard, if like you feel like that, although UK farms are offering 20+ weeks, if you feel like that's like a meaningful, what you could say about habit forming and lifestyle, but that might be my 2 cents.
Well, I think some people, after they've tried this and they realize they feel better, and that alone is probably a significant way to get people to buy in. But it's just getting them started, right, and helping them to figure out how to use all these vegetables.
Yeah, great points. Another question, Richard's come up from Julia. We hear this from a lot of our partners as we're exploring adapting the program that we've had, and that's just nuts and bolts questions about the funding. And can you talk a little bit more about where does the budget come from at UK? Who are the folks you talk to, and how does that conversation go? And maybe even advice you might have for some of our folks here as they're talking with their organizations about funding a program like this.
Sure. We have about 21,000 employees on our health plans, and we have pretty much coddled our employees in terms of what we charge for them to have health plans, and don't make a lot of significant changes, maybe little changes here and there to the benefit. So, but with that kind of volume, we're still very conservative in terms of what we charge our employees. And so the health plan, to have a health plan, the cost of doing business in a sense includes a lot of things, administrative costs, fees, not just the claims, but we do include in what we charge things that we think are going to provide a return or a value on investment. And in this case, the CSA, getting people to eat healthier, does both. And so that's the funding source. It's just a part of the cost of providing a health plan, intuitively, in theory, and according to Dr. Wood's research, your claims decrease, and people are healthier. So we think it's a good investment, and that's how we do it. I think you have to be able to make the argument that this is the cost of providing a health plan, and if we can help people improve their health, it's actually going to be keep our costs from increasing at the same pace. Maybe they're always going to increase, but maybe we're going to slow it down. Maybe we're going to avoid chronic disease, which then costs plans a lot for as long as someone's on the plan. So I think you just have to philosophically be able to make that argument and get buy-in by the leaders that it's actually going to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Any idea off the top of your head, this is putting you on the spot a little bit, but for how much funding goes into a health plan per employee, roughly?
Yeah, good question. Over 50% of most employers' budgets is total compensation, pay plus benefits. Benefits typically is 30% of that. And of that 30%, the two largest ones would typically include the medical plan and the retirement plan, depending on how much an employer matches or contributes. So I don't have that number off the top, but it's I can pull it up here in a minute if we chat a little longer.
Yeah, well, I know it's a lot of money, and other things that we've looked at in terms of the per capita healthcare expenditures in the United States have just exploded over the last 10 years, and especially during this COVID period, really exploded. And so for what employers are having to put into healthcare for their employees, I've always tried to make the argument that a small subsidy for helping people to eat better, move toward a healthier lifestyle, this is a pretty small potatoes investment for an employer, no pun intended, to help move that needle. And those rising healthcare costs are things that employers are facing all across the country. So yeah, good. We had another question that came in from somebody just talking about the kind of logistics of getting the products from our farms to our employees. And I know Katie and Vanessa and some other folks can kind of weigh in on some of the logistics of that, but we have actually expanded the number of farms that have participated as we've expanded the number of employees that are involved. It's been a really great help having an entity like the Kentucky Farm Share Coalition kind of working with us to help facilitate that farmer coordination at the same time as we're trying to adapt programs, not just at UK, but adding more and more employers that are partners with UK in this kind of bigger network now, where UK is not just operating. It was a core player and certainly a champion in starting this thing out. But Katie, you might just throw in a quick bit. How many different employers do we have that we've worked with in the last couple of years?
Yeah, we worked with 16 employers last year, and it kind of fluctuates. It ranges between like 15 and 20 employers each year. And over the lifespan of Kentucky Farm Share Coalition, we're just, we're a piece of the UK program, but they do have farms outside of our program as well. We've probably worked with, 30 to 40 employers. Yeah, and just to answer, I know Vanessa responded in the chat, but Rose, to answer your question, it's always logistically more complicated when you've got a lot of locations to deliver to, but trying to do a pilot at the location that has the largest amount of employees would be like where I might start first, just to kind of test the process and then go from there. But it's always nice to rely on the farm's community pickups as well, if those happen to be close to the other work sites. Would be one strategy, right? It's always it depends on the employer what we do in that scenario.
Super.
Tim, I have some numbers for you, Tim.
Oh, excellent.
On a per member per month basis, we're looking at around $975 per member per month. $975 per member per month. So that might give our view as a metric to compare against, but that's the total cost. That's not UK pays about 76 to 78% of that total cost.
Yeah.
And employees pay about 24%.
And from your experience for the time that you've been at UK, has that number gone up?
Yes, it has. Of course, last year was a record inflation year, right? Mm-hmm. And so our plans tend to be more efficient overall than our peers, and that takes into account geography. But the total cost this year went up between 6 and 7%. Yeah. And so in past years, it's been more like 3 or 4 in recent years. Yeah. 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 Super. Very helpful. So we're just kind of coming to the end of our hour, Richard. You've given us some great insight. We appreciate you taking some time with us. We did have another question that's come in here asking about working with either and Rose, maybe you could clarify just a little bit the state is it the state health department? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I was wondering if anybody has had any experience with potentially having their state Department of Health step forward and say, you know what, this is good for all, in our case, Hoosiers here in Indiana. Didn't know if that was something that's been tried, or maybe they've piloted it somewhere. I was just interested in checking into that. I work for the grants department for our nonprofit health system with 15,000 employees in several locations in Northeast Indiana. And I just thought, wonder if we could check with the state and see what they're thinking. So thank you, though, by the way, for all this help today.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Rose. Yeah, that's a great question. You know, we've tried to work, I know, in Kentucky with our Kentucky Department of Ag. We've had some conversations very early on with some different folks in our health cabinet, but not really. It was more for the employees of the health cabinet specifically, rather than a statewide program. A challenge, and the reason we've sort of started with a target of specific employers and trying to branch out like that is you've got this slow building process and coordination that you have to do with getting the number of farms that can provide the capacity, with matching that up with the employers that are themselves trying to on-ramp and build a program that is going to be accessible, and you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And so but the question about funding is a really interesting one. And you know, the other challenge there with a state level program is, of course, the geography of and logistics of the CSA farms getting products to the entities that would be eligible for it. Have to think about that some more. It's a super question, and it fits in missionally, Rose, with what the State Department of Health would be wanting to do. And we certainly see a lot of great questions and ideas that are coming up from groups like that. Thanks for putting that up the flagpole. They've got some good people, good resources, and funding that would fit. Richard, you had a final comment you want to be sure to flag there?
Well, I want to give credit to where credit's due, and that would go with Jody and Vanessa and you and Jairus, and I don't want to leave Katie out. Having a Kentucky Farm Share Coalition, we couldn't have done it without that. So it does take a lot of parts to make it happen, and those parts may differ by state, but I think this is a growing trend, and I think the parts are probably there. It's just a matter of finding them and maybe, forming groups or coalitions to make it happen. But happy to visit with anyone, and people on our team would be happy to visit with others that are, considering this or wanting to grow this, or just be a sounding board. We're more than glad to do that.
Super. Well, we appreciate you, Richard, taking a big chunk of time out of your day, but more importantly, I've always really greatly appreciated your advocacy for the program and your support for this kind of wellness space and innovation around this space at UK and for CSA generally. And as you've mentioned here, for anybody that's on the call, as you've got other kinds of questions, we're going to have more of these kinds of coffee chats where please encourage you to jump in. We're going to have a chat with Jody and Vanessa that have worked with us more from the wellness side of this equation here, that I know Richard's already made allusion to here, but putting things into the sort of stream of programs that they have in the to complement the other kind of wellness programs is a really, really important dimension of this as well. And encourage you to tune in for that and to hear their take and raise questions for their group there. So please feel free. Sarah, thank you for coordinating all this stuff here today. drop Sarah, Jairus, myself here a note. We can certainly pass questions on along to Richard. And thank you everybody for joining the call here today. And again, anything we can do to help answer some of your questions there locally, look forward to hearing from you. So with that, I guess we appreciate everybody joining in today, and we'll look forward to tuning in with you again. Thank you again, Richard. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank y'all.